Okay, so yesterday we did an article about Central Virginia Regional Jail, and a lot of my comments that went into that video seem to reflect this idea that when push came to shove, the only thing Chris really had any opinions of was that Chris didn't really see it as jail at all. He saw it more as like a holiday camp. And Chris's attitude was absolutely the same when he went into it and when he went out of it. Nothing about Chris seemed to have changed whatsoever. Chris never had any sort of moment where he actually sat down and thought to himself, hang on a second, this is not a good thing I'm here at all. And really, that whether it was when the guy was making rooster-like noises, or when Chris had to hear somebody giving birth at 5 in the morning. It seemed almost as if like Chris just sort of shrugged his shoulders in his sort of obstinate way and just kind of got over it. Not without behavioral issues, but then that's just kind of par for the course. Chris really didn't. Nothing sunk into that thick skull of his. That was until Chris was transferred for about a month. Sorry, 64 days. That brings us neatly to Western State Hospital. I shall sue the facility. 99% of all their staff there have been divinely marked as toxic, as well as cursed. Fortunately, here we are late August of 2025, and no suing or sewing has occurred once. I don't even think Chris has even spoke to a solicitor, so we can mark that down as it's not going to happen anytime soon. Western State Hospital is a state psychiatric hospital located in Staunton, Virginia. Chris was transferred from Central Virginia Regional Jail to the facility and was housed from the 28th of February 2022 until the 3rd of May 2022, 64 days, while awaiting legal proceedings for incest. He was housed in the long-term unit known as 1 Hickory. It is located about 34 miles away from 14 Branchling Court. Chris was apparently not permitted to send letters during his stay. Upon his return to Central Virginia Regional Jail, he began writing letters to orbiters mentioning the ordeal. In Jail Letter 1, 1st of June 2022, Chris mentioned that the staff had pinned him down, saying that they had recreated the Pin Me Down event from 4th grade, minus the chokehold, to a T, also claiming the incident gave him PTSD. Chris further called out one staff member in particular, writing that should any of the staff, in particular Betty Hoover, who instigated the event, still be around after the completion of the collective shift and my second coming, I shall sue the facility. Hoover is listed by the state of Virginia payroll records as having been employed by Western State, confirming that he had been transferred there. In Jail Letter 4 for June 2022, Chris revealed that he had been sent for restoration in order to re-educate him on courtroom proceedings and terminology, confirming fans' speculation he had been declared incompetent to stand trial and the hospital stay was to rectify it. This was confirmed in a court record stating for treatment of incompetent. In Jail Letter from the 29th of July 2022, Chris claimed that Western was supposed to have arranged a group home for him, but sent him back to the jail in order to free up a room. He further alleged the Western Hospital staff as abusive as F, with their bondage/sadomasochism chairs and arrogantly shit-minded with their patients, relating that his belief that a simple demon exorcism would have healed one of their patients. Now, listen, there's a reason why we're doing these sort of articles back to back, because that's really all we know about Western State. Whether it was because details were left markedly absent, or whether or not there's some level of proceeding about what these places are like inside, I think Chris will be the only person who can answer that. What I find more interesting, however, is the idea that Chris the whole reason why Chris was sent here at all is because he was deemed incompetent to even stand trial or to even stand in court. Now, we know that Chris had some issues in regards to his attitude in not only in court when Chris was arrested, but in courtrooms previously for different offences. And the thing that always kind of buzzes in my mind every so often is the idea that, well, even after Chris was returned to regional jail, are you really trying to tell me Chris was competent enough to stand? Or was Chris, as far as Western State were concerned and regional state were concerned, competent enough to stand trial? Because at this moment in time, I am legitimately not that convinced that Chris really was that competent. Because what exactly... I wonder if they posed some sort of ploy in Chris's mind where he knew that, guess what, if you don't want to stay here any longer, then I suggest you get into shape and we'll take you back to the jail and we'll get on with it. Now, part of me also thinks that's kind of pushing it a little bit because when has Chris ever had the foresight to realize that, guess what, maybe changing my attitude now might actually help me out in the long run? I don't quite know the answer to that, but what I do know is that Chris's opinions of it were so low that he still considers suing the place. But of course, that hasn't come to be, and thank God will probably never come to be. It's kind of depressing in some ways that, well, even this wasn't enough to snap Chris into action, but that's Chris for you. Dense is not the word. So with all that being said and done, I'll see all of you guys again next time. I know some of these articles are a little bit shorter than others, but this is just there are some extensive ones coming, so watch out, eh? And I'll see you guys next time, okay? Ta-ra.